I'm on the wrong thing. There we go.
There we are.
Yeah.
We're live. I have no
Oh, hi.
idea how many of you are out there. Jennifer's out there.
Hi,
Thank you, Jennifer.
Jennifer.
I don't
Jennifer.
normally show up at 10 in the morning. This is normally, I'm still in my jammies and figuring the day out because I don't normally ever start anything before 11. And for some deranged reason, I'm sure there's a reason in the stars. If I pull my chart out, I'll find out 10 o'clock is the perfect time to start a show today.
I truly believe that you were going to text me and say, whoops, it's going to be at 11. So, yeah, but this
No.
works out great. This works out great.
So, what are we going to talk about today, Teri?
Happiness, being happy. Hi, Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren.
Yeah. Yeah, the workings of the brain and how to stay happy.
Right.
So how to yeah, and I didn't read the whole thing, I gotta say, because I thought I'd
It's a
have
little
time.
long,
It was a long one. It was a long one.
but it's
Hi,
from a book
Nico.
by Eric Barker. And it's, and I meant to write the name of the book down before we started, but then Teri was here on time. I thought I was going to have a whole hour to vamp.
Oh, instead I came in and ruined your day.
No, you didn't ruin my day.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. I've got it up somewhere. Oh, here it is. New Neuroscience 3. Reveals what will make you well, apparently rock bottom has a basement. Is that the name of it?
No, that's the name of the article. But the
Oh,
guy,
okay.
this comes out of a whole book full of brilliant things. And I looked it up last night and it's got such a great name. I have to tell you, when I was in graduate school, the best book I ever read was Ropes to Skip and Ropes to Know. And it was really brilliant. It was, this is 48 years ago, guys. But it was about what ropes, when you get in the corporate world, what ropes look risky and don't get on them, and rope you can skip, and ropes you should get to know because they'll help you swing through the trees. And when I look back, I read the book 10 years after I was out of the corporate world. It was probably the best description of the corporate world I'd ever seen. And I mean, but in a playful, we're in the playground. Anyway, his book, this notes from this book is called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. And and he also has a book called Plays Well with Others. So he's into that kind of mindset. But this doesn't have to do with the corporate world because there won't be one soon. I mean, we're all going to break off into our own tribes and be happy, right?
Yes. That's what my world says.
Yes. So, but anyway, I saw this article and I thought, what? And I believe a lot in neuroscience. I believe that they stick enough pieces of tape and wires on people that if you think it, they know it.
Yeah.
And I've had sleep studies done on me. And actually, I had the woman who did my sleep study and was my sleep doctor for years. When I lost weight, I didn't have sleep apnea anymore. So I don't get to go see Dr. Mike anymore. But when I used to go see her, if you don't understand how sleep apnea works, they give you a machine, they tie it up. The thing that they made everyone dislike with the tubes whipping over the wife's face and all that stuff. Yeah, I had one of those, but I didn't have a husband or a wife at the time, so I didn't care. And I slept all night, and that was the most important part. But they monitor it to make sure that all the pressures are staying right because they can either underblow you, which means you're never quite on the edge of rest, or they can overblow you, which gives you all other kinds of problems in your lungs. So every once in a while, you have to go in and you take the chip out of your machine, and when in the old days, and you took it in and they analyzed it. Well, she also had a way. The last machine I had, they could telemonitor it from somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you said, I've got a cold, what's going on? And they could let you know that you're staying in the right levels. And this preserves your heart, guys. So it's really important. But anyway, I was talking to Dr. Mike, and she said, next time you come in, I'm going to have a calendar for you. So you need to bring in your book that says when you've been working, because she knew I was reading actively at table as a psychic at the time. And I went in and we compared it, and she could see on my sleep patterns when the days after I'd been reading. And she said, oh my God, what happened this day? Because it really, what she was looking for was off the charts. And it's because I'd read a giant party of people, and I read about 60 people in a night. And she said, I have tried and tried and tried to figure out a way to write a thing to get a study of psychics, because she had 3 of us, and she now knew from looking at even though we all did different stuff,
Mm-hmm.
she now knew that going out into that world changed your brainwaves at night.
100%. Yeah.
And
You
we
go
shouldn't
deep.
shock us, but
Yeah, you go deep into RIM then, don't you?
Yeah, actually, I won the award for, I had not slept for quite a while, and before they diagnosed my sleep apnea. So they put me in the room and they wired me up. They came in when I'd been down for less than an hour and said, we have to put this on you now. We have to put the mask on you now. And I said, why? And they said, because you hit brain damage levels twice in the last hour. So we're wiring you up because we're not going to be responsible for that. So I looked at, you got this mask and this tube, and plus your head's all with wires. And you're like, I'm never going to, you're going to sleep. And when I woke up the next day, they had let me sleep until I awoke naturally, which they normally don't do. They say 9 o'clock, you're out. And I had 2.5 hours of REM sleep. That was the award. The analyst who's dealing with me said, you still hold the award for the longest amount of REM sleep. Apparently you hadn't had any REM sleep in so long.
Yeah. I quit wearing my watch that had all that on it,
Mm-hmm.
but that was my gift, sleeping.
You were good at that, huh?
I excelled at sleeping. Yeah, I went into REM really fast.
Well, I go right into REM, and then it runs, and then it goes up, and it goes boop, 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 boop. And then I'll maybe I know today, because of the dream I had at the end of the night, I had another REM thing. And then I also have the times when it shows that I disappear, and
Right?
they don't have an answer for that.
Yeah. And what do you think that is?
Oh, I'm gone. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm off the planet. I'm
Yeah.
somewhere. And
Yeah.
I just keep telling them I don't want to see you, and they'll tell me you've had heavy downloads. And actually, other psychics I work with said, oh boy, did you get a download 2 nights ago? And I'm like, whatever, no more. This is like your kids coming in telling you stuff,
Yeah.
proximity. But
Well,
that's why I believe in neuroscience.
yeah, it's I think that in the spiritual world a lot of times we look at the emotional and we look at the spiritual, but we not that we discount the physical, but it's been there for so long that we just kind of we're so excited about the spirit part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
the physical part is huge, and changing those neural pathways as we ascend to adapt differently.
Yeah, Dr. Mike would love to get a hold of all the people that are on the ascension path,
Yeah.
because she was one of the original sleep doctors.
Hmm.
When I was with her, she had over 20 years. So she'd have 40 years worth of recorded information. And to watch somebody like me that she's followed since I was in my 40s, 50s, and one of the other psychics was much younger. Actually, she said that child, she said she wasn't. Well, my youngest has been wearing a sleep mask since she was 17 and doesn't sleep without it. She can't. If she doesn't have that mask on, you would think a 747 was landing in the upper bedroom. I mean, And
That
she
sounds
doesn't do it for our good. She does it for her own good because it got to the point her body was sort of destroying itself. Because it's so, I really believe in neuroscience, and I believe, and this is why science is coming more into the quantum field, because there's a lot of quantum that lives in the same shadow as what Dr. Mike did. When she started, they were like, oh, sleeping's not a big deal. And I can remember as a child in late grade school and junior high, how many times my father would come home and he'd talk about some man friend of his that was one of his hunting buddies.
Mhm.
Just went to sleep and didn't wake up the next morning, and no one could figure out why. And that was sleep apnea.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah.
it had not been diagnosed as a thing. No
Yeah.
one thought you could stop breathing long enough to choke. I mean, to stop your brain. And, or when by the time you'd get to the point you realized I'm in need, your body couldn't respond properly. And these weren't guys. I remember my father sitting at the table saying, we just can't figure it out. He didn't have heart condition. He didn't have, nothing's wrong with his kidneys. He came in. He said, this is just weird. Why is, and he said, but it's just so, they called them sleep deaths at the time. And it's a real thing. So if you snore, or you have a partner who snores, or worst of all, my partner didn't snore, but I could hear him stop breathing at night.
Yeah.
If you stop breathing at night, that is not normal. And they now have less invasive things in the tubes. They put something in your chest to make you breathe. I wouldn't do that either, because anyway, so to get back to what everybody really came to hear about instead of Nancy's weird body and all the health problems it's ever had. And we could go on. We found this wonderful article. Well, apparently Rock Bottom has a basement. And that was so intriguing to me. And what they talk about is 3 secrets hidden in neuroscience that can help you get out of that. And it's amazing what they found out about the issues. They start with a person who said, well, I took the family to Grand Canyon again, and the whole vacation just kind of fell apart because nobody was happy. Nobody was thrilled. Nobody was overjoyed. And the reason is we find something we really, really like, and it just blows our socks off, and we want to go do it again. And then we do it 100 times and we go, yeah. It's called habituation. You made a habit of something that really thrilled you. And it doesn't have to be as great as a Grand Canyon. It can be as subtle as a certain flavor of bagel, and you get hooked on it. And then eventually, well, it doesn't taste as good as the last one. And because there's a trigger, and they've tested people with this in their brain when they get surprised with something. Say you think you're going to get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but instead you get this wonderful cream cheese with exotic jellies and all kinds of stuff on it. Your brain is surprised and it wakes up.
Yeah.
And it says, what fun is this?
Endorphins.
So now it says, now what is the poor joy-seeking person supposed to do? Some might say, keep seeking out new experiences. Chase the dragon of novelty, which is another. But chasing the dragon of novelty also becomes an habituation, right?
It does. It becomes an addiction, even it can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we can learn to outwit this foe, turn the tables in a relentless march to indifference, keep good feelings coming when we're fighting for them. We can bring and then there's a word that I can say this word, patience. Dishabituate. In other words, habituate with DIS in front of it. And it brings the sparkle back by saying, okay, yeah, I know that was always a big joy, but I'm going to let it go. And when they talk about that, they find the easiest for people to try in their own lives if you drink coffee, the maker of all things. I have a child that's addicted to coffee, and I can drink it sometimes. I'm drinking it today, but I can't drink it all the time because it does give me rumbly tumblies. And so, but their suggestion is to let go of the coffee. And then the first sensation you're going to have, if you're really a coffee addict, is you're going to be miserable. And then you'll eventually kind of get used to that if you're staying with the program. And then eventually one day you have coffee again. But it's like Santa's arrived on Christmas, because you've dishabituated your body from having it all the time whenever I want it. And
Yeah.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that it breaks down to awareness, that you're kind of like, you're in presence then when it comes in and it's new. You taste it, you smell it, your senses become aware. And when our senses become aware, it's then you go into your subtle senses, and it gets deeper, and that's where intuition starts coming in, and you're in touch, perhaps, or what do I want to say? What's the word? It's anyway, you're aware of your creative impulse and your creative energy. And it's weird, like when you travel, I feel like as Americans, we're more in tune with working. So we're more in that habitual presence. That's what we do. We work and we shop, right? That's what we do. We're consumer driven economy. So when you travel, it's like if you go to Europe, everybody is getting ready for their trip. Like, I'm going to have 3 trips this year because they get a whole month off, right? And they're going to say, well, I'm going to go to this island, and then I'm going to go, whether it's down the block or, or to the other side of the planet. But they plan on things. And I think giving yourself a reward is a huge piece of that.
Okay. There's one of the things he talks about. It's not just things like coffee that we need to dishabituate ourselves from. It's like absence makes the heart grow fonder. And in a relationship problem he's talking about, you break that homicidally building complex when you give up the expectation about that your partner is going to fill the dishwasher. When you dishabituate yourself from all of the anger and the other stuff, when you make a conscious decision, I'm going to fill the dishwasher and it's going to be fine. And he said, you can return to each other after. The added bonus is knowing, that where you've gotten to with it. But the added bonus is you actually come towards each other with new conversations, other than you're not going to believe what the cat did today. So it's big things. It's food. Of course, if the habituation you're tied to with someone is booze and drugs, you're in kind of a different thing. But we're headed sort of insane. I like this one. I'm trying to find ones that are other than food. Suppose you live in an apartment, or suppose you live in a house, and the water pressure's gotten less and less and less in the shower, and you've just learned to adjust to it. So I love this explanation. So now your shower is spitting on you like a preschooler, and all of a sudden you go on a trip, a business trip, you end up in a shower that blasts the skin off your body, and you're remembering how showers can really feel. That change will make you go deal with the shower that doesn't work.
Yeah. You get used to it, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You get, and that's, we get used to not having what we want, or what we, I'm not going to say we get used to um, things that make us sad, but like you don't see that you haven't cleaned your windows or your mirrors until
Right.
you do, and then you're like, oh, I remember that. That was really nice. It feels so
Hmm.
good to clean up my closet. Yeah, all those little things.
You know, he says it's not normal to wake up every day feeling like a steamroller's run over you in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
You should be able to wake up, and um, there are plans you can put in place. But this kind of goes to our whole spiritual adventure that we're on. Um, you know, so you used to meditate, you know, for forever, and now you find meditation makes you restless, or when you get up, you don't have the zing that makes you want to move forward. And I'm trying to see if we have any questions.
Oh, Dr. Gail came in. I want to say hi to her. And we've gotten some really good comments. Barbara says, also not making, oh, I keep punching it. I'm going to pull it up. Barbara says, not making assumptions to clarify if
Right.
not clear. Yeah.
Don't live in the, I assume it's going to happen this way. I went to a new restaurant. I was driving down this road that's near my house. And so I've been driving up and down by it for 4 years when I would get out. And there's a new restaurant and it looks sunny and shiny. And they claim fresh baked goods every day, which is not good for a person on keto. But I thought if they're going to all the trouble to do that, they're probably doing the other food right too.
Yeah.
And so I just decided, screw it. I haven't had lunch yet. Well, I only eat once a day, so I can get a nomad meal out of this. So I went in. Brilliant place. When you walk in, you're in this whole bakery. It's full of cakes and little things. And I called my kids and said, I'm here. What do you want me to bring you home? You know, and I described the sorts of things they had. I had a wonderful soup, and it's all based on Central American cooking.
Ooh, yum.
So there was a bit of spice. They didn't overdo it. They didn't want to blow your heads off. But just going to a new restaurant and having to spend the time to know the menu, or go to a restaurant you normally go to and pick something you don't normally pick. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Doing something outside your dorm. Hi, JJ. Tutah speaks. People are coming in. I, anytime that we do something a little out of our norm or notice something or aware of something, it creates those endorphins.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is sometimes you can pretend that you did and tell your brain that you've done something like, oh, this is all new to me. And it relieves you. So like doing breath work. If you can't do breath work, you can tell your body that you're doing it and imagine yourself doing it.
Right. Or do one of the first things I learned when I was in the last was one I can remember sort of benchmark when I was going to go out and be a reader all the time. It was about 20 years ago. I read a book called Inner Size, which is how to exercise your insides to get them ready to do this. And in it is a whole chapter, and I've used this chapter more than probably anything else in there I read, about 6 deep breaths. And what you do is when you take 6 deep breaths, breathe in, hold it for 2, and then breathe it out longer than you breathed it in. If you do that 6 times, when you kind of open your eyes and look where you are, you've changed your mind. That this is another neuroscience thing. They trace people's minds, and they have changed from being in reactive mode to being in responsive mode.
Mm-hmm. Homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they can function better. Well, one night I was reading at the wine bar, and a young woman came up, and she was a lawyer, and I read her, and I guess I must have pinned her pretty good, because about 20 minutes later, this young man comes up, and he's dressed like young lawyer in Dallas, out having a glass of wine casually with friends. So his tie wasn't as tight. That's casually. Uh, and he sits down at my table and he said, I said, well, the way I read is I start out with what's going on around you in the next 3 months. And he said, no, I just wanted to ask you, how come you were so right about her? And I said, well, the fact that I have a sign next to me that says Tarot reader and I do readings implies that something comes out of those readings. Like if someone goes in your law office and they want to know law in one of those books, they assume you can find it. And he goes, well, I'm just not really sure. And I said, of course you're not, because you're a lawyer and you want witnesses, you want facts, you want a piece of paper, you want the figures to prove what you want to prove. I said, I understand lawyers. My older brother was one. Least trustworthy of my siblings, but he was one. And he kind of laughed and he said, well, I work for a big firm and it's really, and I said, oh, really? Where do you work? And this is after I'd done years in politics. And I actually knew his boss. I mean, I didn't know him enough to call him up and say, hi, Joe, what's going on? But I knew him. And he said, oh, I work at a law firm. I work primarily with, I'm one of the young attorneys working with this guy. And I go, oh, he's a real asshole. And he looked at me and I said, I used to have to go get money from him. I don't have to get money from them anymore. Everybody else was kind and generous and stuff. And that guy was just a jerk. If he thought he could jerk you around, he was going to jerk you around. He tried it once with me. It never worked. So after that, I never had to deal with him again because one of the other partners would come and talk to me. And I'd get just as much money, so I don't have to put up with an asshole. And he goes, God, I wish I could figure out how to do that. And I said, oh, you're the victim in this group. And he looked at me. And I knew what this guy's style was. And he did tell me the whole story. They call him into a meeting and you have to present whatever part of the little case, your part of the case that you're supposed to present. And he said the guy's eyes would sweep around the table. They'd lock on him. And he said, and he'd ask me a question. He said, I knew what the answer was, but I couldn't get it out. And I said, that's his kind of power, because you knew he was going to, and he was going to embarrass you. And he knew you were embarrassable. And once he did it a couple times, he had you, and he had you. It's like a cat with a mouse. And he said, well, you got some cards to tell me how to deal with that? And I said, no, but I'm going to teach you a breathing exercise. And the next time you go into a meeting with him, stop in the restroom, because no one cares what you're doing in the stall and they don't really want to know. That's enough time to sit and do this. And I explained to him about the 6 breaths. And he went, that's insane. Breathing can't change it. I said, look, I would never tell anyone to do 6 breaths before they drove down Central Expressway. When you're on Central Expressway, you need to be in the most reactive mode you can be. You need to have all your antennae out. You need to be waiting for the attack. But this will put you in a don't attack me mode. I'm centered. And he kind of looked at me. And then I did a quick reading on him and I pointed out something was going on around him and he kind of ran away from the table. He did pay me. I didn't see him for like 6 or 7 months. He came back. I said, how's it going? And he looked much more relaxed, and it wasn't just the wine. And he said, it worked. I said, oh, you did the breath thing. And he said, I don't understand all of how that works. But he said, I did it before this meeting. And he scooped around the table and he looked at me and I could see it in his eyes. He knew it would. So he went to the next guy, the next guy over that he could do it to. And I said, did it work as well with the next guy? He said, no, not really. I said, that's because you'd already shaken him up. Welcome to having your own power back. And he paid me twice and he didn't ask for a card reading. And I said, well, what's your next plans? He said, oh, I'm looking for a new job.
Oh, good for him. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, you get into somebody like that and they can kind of read you.
And not only that, but the law firm puts up with it.
Yeah.
So that's my long story for the day. Now you get to talk.
It's okay. Well, returning to homeostasis through, there's a few different,
Habituation. Mhm.
pardon me?
Yes, go on.
Oh, okay. So, returning to homeostasis through all sorts of different ways, but breath work is a big one. You can look around you and name like 5 things that you see, 5 things that you hear, 5 things that you taste, and just imagine them. And that
Mhm.
that can center you. That's a huge one as well. You can just smile, and that recenters you, and laugh out loud,
Mhm.
even if it's the fakest smile in the world. It recenters you. It's a weird thing, but there's a lot of little things that we can do like that to recenter ourselves. Aromatherapy, I know a lot of you are really into that, and people here are talking about tapping too. Tapping is huge. There's a lot of things that we can do. I'm sure, I think Juno's here too, and I'm sure that there's, I think she talks about holding your thumbs a lot.
Oh yeah, there's the Japanese. Next time we meet, we'll take 5 minutes. I'll show you that Japanese exercise they did all over Japan. They did it to nurses before they went on there, and it's a Japanese thing. I know that's why Juno knows about it.
Mhm.
And it's each finger is a different thing,
Yeah.
and how you hurt on it, and I've heard about it. But I have the little graph, I have the little hand graph, and all this stuff, and it really, if you're thinking I don't know what I'm going to do with today, you can grab onto that. It will re-energize you.
Yeah, and, there's another breath work, well, there's a lot of them, but the box breath, like inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4. Doing that 4 times, resets your body completely too, and, alternate nostril breathing, like just
Yes.
exhaling out of your left and then inhale, exhale out of your right, and then just keep doing that until you feel like you're coming back to your, power. But there's a lot of little things, and I've had a lot of opportunities lately, I don't know about you guys, to kinda reset and think, "What the heck?"
Hmm.
So, yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of fear-driven, things going on right now. If we watch the media, you know, there's a lot of fear on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did. When I was looking around for a story to do, I just opened up my YouTube, and I was in the psychic medium sort of section, and I wrote down the first 6 stories, and it was like standing at the old grocery counter watching the old uh, National Enquirer magazine.
Yeah.
Who's doing this too, and what's happening to this? And
It is, isn't it? Another thing, they've done studies on your brain as well, of giving yourself gifts.
right.
So, whether it's like a gift of a cup of coffee when you don't drink coffee, or a gift of,
Hmm.
stopping by a garage sale or a thrift store, a gift of, I used to always go online and put a bunch of things in my cart, and then I'd go to a different thing, and I wouldn't buy them, but I kinda got the thrill of, "Oh, I think I'll take that, boom."
Hmm.
But you never get it, but it was just like it was just an action that gives you a little power there. Or the gift can
There's a
be,
recovering shopaholic in that conversation.
there is, there totally is, you guys, too many years in retail.
Hmm.
Yeah, selling and buying. So, yeah, but there's a lot of little things that we can do for ourselves, and the gift of a vacation, whether that vacation is going for a walk around your block or in the forest or hiking in the mountains or, watching, an old movie. That's a
Hmm.
gift, and just acknowledging while you're doing it, like, "I'm so happy here." Every Sunday, I try to give myself the gift of having coffee in bed, and
Ah,
that's just a special thing that I keep, for Sundays. So, anyway,
I
but
can't do that because I have to talk to people on Scott's show, and
oh, you do? Yeah, you guys have a long show on Sundays. Yeah, I
yeah,
stopped by and said hi. I try to stop by and say hi to everybody, and it's
it
yeah.
was yesterday was interesting.
Yeah, you guys were busy.
We were busy, and but it was interesting because we weren't getting the When can we chop their balls off and watch it? You know, kind of. That's what I call them to Scott. They're a lot of people, and I keep saying when they speak from vengeance, they're not understanding the change we're going through right now. I think I heard it best expressed. It's not what is the world doing to me. It is what is the world doing for me so I can see how I need to change or where I'm strong. I got a whole lot of stuff this weekend about where I'm strong off things that are happening in the world. But if you get to the point where you're saying, look at what they're doing to me, they're winning.
Yeah. Or when are they going to know they're wrong?
Right.
Because people think that their world is their world. And obviously this is just energy. And our real world is, you know, where we came from. I think anyway, but looking at things and knowing that it's all in motion. We can change it.
Mm-hmm.
And just by witnessing that, it changes the way that our minds work around it and our brains. Oh, Hypnicity says, I ask my guides, how can I respond effectively? Yeah, music therapy, Indigo says. Yeah, that's huge.
How can you respond effectively? By not letting it set your hair on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, really. You know, it's like, or to look at it realistically. It's there's it's Danny's been talking about it and telling his people to do it. It's something I told a friend of mine to do when this chaos really started, when he got elected and he started taking over. And my friend would call me and she'd say, oh my God, did you see they're going to whatever, and whatever the crisis of the moment was. And I'd say, write down what you're really upset about now. Just writing it down will help you get it out of your system to some extent. Then put it in a place where you know you're going to be shuffling on your desk in a day or so and see where it is. Because, yeah, he closed the Department of Education, but it's still not closed. But when I get off this phone call, I'm going to have a phone call with a friend of mine who works for the VA. The VA system has been down for 2 days. The whole system, their payroll, their patient things, everything. The whole of the VA is down right now.
Yeah, I know parts of the government employees system has been down too. My sister was a mail carrier for years, and you know, anyway, she was a Teamster getting her money and things like that, her disability. So it's a lot.
So, here's someone complimenting us, so we're going to show it. She missed us yesterday. Yeah, and you got it. The other thing is, okay, in my garden, there's a space called the throat chakra. It's one of the chakras. Each part of that garden, I had a vision one night and I'd wake up the next morning and write it down. That was a real interesting, almost 2 months of no sleep, but I mean, not feeling like I was rested, but this is what I saw for the throat chakra. You got to understand, this is me, and I like wake up, I'm in a dream state, and I walk into a situation and I have to kind of figure it out. What happens here is bringing the energy to the real place and sharing it with others. That's what we're told about the throat chakra. I'm part of a strange committee of people. I was in politics. I was used to that. I was part of a strange committee of people in a semi-dark place, like a warehouse, with large bays on the outside. All the tasks and resolutions had to be resolved publicly. In other words, the committee had to work it out. And I learned, I was teamed up with a man I didn't recognize. We were assigned a random little boy about 11 years old. He was supposed to have insight into how all this works, but he has an attitude, and that was in capital, and tends to wander away from us. The person who's really running the show is a female in a Betty Crocker apron with apples all over it. Yeah, I know. I have weird dreams. And she was as scattered as the apples on her apron. She couldn't get anything into focus. Finally, I got my guy partner to understand that we must get the project outside onto the loading dock. But he says, we need that child for clarification. But he's hiding on the couch now in the dark and tells me, we're on your own. So I think about it, and he's right. I have to communicate and bring this expression, this idea, or this thing outside. And the only way I can do it is there's no big daddy, there's no snotty little inner child, and there's no mommy figure that's going to do it for me. Just me. The creation's on the loading dock, and it's ready to launch in the world. And I don't in the garden, structures mean ego. And when it's out in the light, in the sun, out where it's into the world, that means that it's in the sphere where we can all work with it. And I always thought that one was the one where I finally said, okay, we do all this inner child work. We get rid of our hidden frustrations. We let go of, mommy didn't love me enough. Get out on the loading dock. You can sit there and argue with them for the whole of your life and be inside that warehouse. Or you can step outside and communicate what you need to say. And that's kind of where we are. There's no, first it was going to, and this used to make me nuts. I'd listen to the news stories. Wait till the Mueller report breaks. When the Mueller report breaks, this is all done. And then it broke, and because no one really pursued it, it went nowhere. Well, it went somewhere, but not any place functional. Then it was, we got Smith. Jack Smith's going to come in. He's going to find all the stuff. Well, Jack Smith did come in. In effect, he did find all the stuff. But the rotten little 11-year-old is still hiding on the couch in the back of the warehouse. It's not being brought out into the light because we're waiting for Jack Smith to bring him out into the light. Our own energies were not in. We're in the right, and we should move forward. Our actions were in, someone's going to solve it. We're going to have a Watergate committee hearing, and they're going to open the doors up and show everybody. Anyway, that's kind of along the same lines as we have to get out of that habit of waiting for other things. Here's one.
Yeah. Did you see Al? Yeah, I saw
that. The family advertisement. Watch CLSB Politics this morning from Green Bay. Maybe he should listen too. He's not panicking. He's observing the wrecking. And he's in a race. He's in a race for the Supreme Court justice. He's running the Green Bay area. And it's real interesting to hear it from his side. I get my weather reports. It's so funny to see Sean in a snowstorm. I have one picture of him as a child in snow. Because we're up here.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lisa says, yeah, great insight. We want some authority to save us. We do. And
there is no, we are the authority. It's now we're falling to the collective authority of us.
Yeah. And it's just like, and in some terms, it's just like going to an intuitive or a mediumship. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't interconnect with all of that. We should, but gee, you are your own guru. You are the power. And everybody here is remembering, like there's a lot of readers here right now, but everybody is taking a step up, and you guys all have the power to do that. Yeah. Whether it's definitely vote hypnicity. But also, but we know how to interconnect, and we're just remembering.
And we also need to know, they always blame it on the auditors. When the accidents were in the books, that's the only way the auditors can find it. I have a master's in accounting and computer science, and boy, is that ever true. They always blame the auditors. And all the auditors are doing is saying, this wasn't recorded properly. Or it was, and oops, maybe it was an accident. I used to work for a major corporation. I was told the phrase we were to use is, we had the most aggressive tax policy possible, which meant we paid the least we could. Now, I'm not against that. But for them, it was, if we hide it far enough, they don't know we owe it, you know.
Yeah. My mom growing up always had a German mom, and she had, your shoulders back, everything. Anyway, but she always said, when we would say, I don't like that. And she would say, you say, I don't care for that. And I
Mhm.
thought that's much more social discourse.
Right.
But yeah, when we say, oh, I really don't care for that, not my way of thinking, but interesting, and keep the conversation going. But
Oh, this is an interesting point.
I was just
For
looking
those
at,
of us who follow the stars, when Mercury and Virgo go direct in April, more information will be revealed. Momentum is building, keeping the pressure on. That's key. We can't let them scare us into hidey holes.
yeah,
And they're the ones that ought to be scared. I mean, not us.
right. Hey, Vicky. Yeah. Um, it's all going to turn, you guys. It will turn, and it's going to turn differently, I think, than what we expect it to turn. So, but I feel like we're going to be fine, and kind of instead of, I don't know, they've got all sorts of different ways that we can look at things. Like, should we buy a lot of food? Should we move? Should we leave the country? Should we
Mm-hmm.
do all these things? Which a lot of times that's fear driven,
Mm-hmm.
and not a good reason to do anything when it's fear driven. To make a plan, like, what does your heart want? What does your heart say?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what would be good for you in that respect? Like, who am I that wants this? Hey, Jen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and think of it in terms of love and light. If you get locked into thoughts and they're pushing you into the darkness, that's when they're letting it do to you. What can you do for yourself?
Yeah.
And see, oh, I heard an older woman who she had to go pay money to get a passport to prove she was born in the U.S. so she'll be able to vote, because her state has passed laws that make that mandatory since she changed her name at the age of 20, and they don't accept the things they used to say. And she summed it up perfectly, how she felt like where she was, And she said, I'm 70 years old and this is what's happened to me. And I will tell you, I went to my teensy little post office, and it's the smallest post office I know of in Dallas. It's actually not in Dallas, it's in Addison. And I went in to turn in my post office box keys because I don't use it enough. And there was a line to get passports. I barely, I think 3 times I've ever even seen in the 5 years I've been going to this place, have I seen people getting a passport. There were 6 people in line, and 2 of them were mothers with small babies. And I asked the clerk, and she said, it's been like that every day. And she said, the parents are trying to get passports for their babies so they can prove they're U.S. citizens.
Mm, yeah. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's falling apart. Everything's
But
falling apart. But
but
it's going
people
to
are
be
responding
uncomfortable.
adequately. I mean, they've got what they've got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't nudge. Oh, this is true. Don't nudge. Don't nudge, but contact state representatives. And I know somebody posted, oh, but Louis DeJoy didn't let those postcards get through. They still get counted as they enter in a certain part of the post office. And trust me, having worked with candidates, they know. even if they don't want to know. Their staffs kind of let them know unless they're complete jerks. And I don't know how you get past that. But the ones that we say, why aren't these people? They seem relatively decent most of the time. Why aren't they speaking up? They know. They know what's going on. And but to not send it, then they go, oh well, no one ever sent anything to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, driver's license requirements are also changing. You need one, either a star to travel domestically. Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have. My daughter and I both checked. She checked hers because she just got hers renewed. I got mine renewed during COVID, and I got a star on mine.
Yeah. I have one, and I have my I think I've got 2 years left on my um passport too.
Passport.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin. I need to call her. She's in Canada. She's basically saying, "Why aren't you coming up here?" Because you're a half hour's drive from Detroit if you come off the bridge. Only is far enough. It's cold up there too. And if you see Sean's tape today, um, that's totally up to you, Indigo. I'd look at my circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a passport. I just don't ever go anywhere, and I live in a state that it takes 2 days to drive out of. So,
Yeah, and I'm right smack in the middle. So the country. I'm in KC, so it's hard to get anywhere from here, but
thank you, Jen. I'll let
yeah.
him know you're thinking about him.
Yeah. He's amazing, isn't he, Jen? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on to the southern states. God, we thought. I said, well, you won't be talking in the snow.
There you go. Get ready for summer though.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
well, he's in Texas, and he's going to be out of. He's going to be in Virginia, which is much. It can be hot, but it's not as bad as here.
Yeah. It
Okay,
sounds
and then
beautiful.
yeah, somebody said for you, it's a good thing to have in your back pocket before they start changing the rules, because you will have an old school passport.
Yeah. Yeah. I double checked, you guys. I couldn't find mine. I was I was in visiting family in England in July, I think, this past
Mm-hmm.
year, 24. And I couldn't find it anywhere. I was looking all over the place, but I finally did find it. So we all have passports in my family, and they're all good till 2027. So, yeah. Yeah, and I'm in Missouri, but it's Kansas City is a Democratic area. We're a blue area. But, you know, I don't know that that's enough, but I'm doing what I can. So, I'm
Well, you
writing
need to do what you can do so you feel secure, so you don't panic one Thursday. And
yeah.
then you need to hold love and light out for people, other people, and help them. Some people have never gotten a passport; they don't even know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. Yeah, we looked into that Celtic Seer. Actually, my daughter's going to Europe this summer, and we looked into the dual citizenships like 4 times. Our families looked into that, and right now we can't quite get it. Yeah.
That's because they don't want people from fascist nations moving into their countries. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we were displaced, so, supposedly, we're supposed to be able to get in, but there's some technicalities that we can't do it. My mom, relinquished her German citizenship before she came to the US in a refugee camp. So,
Mm-hmm.
but now they've rescinded that too, so that's supposed to be okay. I don't know.
It's all more, and it does. There's going to be no one soon to call to talk to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 10 hours from Mexico and 18 hours from British Columbia. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, ethnicity, right? There's a lot of music in KC. Yeah. It's not a bad town. I mean, I like my city,
Oh,
I've
it's a
always liked
beautiful
to live.
city.
Yeah, I've lived several different places, but I do like it here. So we'll see what it looks like. And it seems like for a while there, it felt, I don't know about you guys, but I could really feel it when somebody came near me and I felt like they were MAGA, and I
Hmm.
could feel the intolerance and the pain and whatnot. And then now when somebody comes near me that I looks like right, I perceive that they could be, I
Hmm.
send them so much love, and either they do one of 2 things. They either smile at me and hold the
Hmm.
door open, or they turn and they walk the other direction.
Very good.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's what the lady who um, the one that was 70 years old that was saying she was going to have to get a passport. That's what she was talking about. She was in the post office getting her passport, and she needed some more forever stamps because she's been sending her letters every day and making her calls. She said, "I'm 60." She was 64 or 65 years old. She said, "I just can't get out as much as I used to, but that's my way of being part of it and encouraging everyone who's my age to do that, and especially getting, if you can get through on the phone, to talk to a staff member that picks the phone up if you get one.
yeah,
They don't exist in Texas, but she said when she went up to the post office, the the postal worker had seen her getting her passport, and he was being very closed off. And she said, he said, "Do you want any specific stamps?" And she said, "Yes, I want the Ruth Bader Ginsburg stamps." She said, "I want them to know before they look at anything else where I stand." She said he broke out into the biggest grin and said, "I'll get them right for you right now." So, yeah, it's making them afraid. They're somehow making us afraid um, to communicate to people. But I'm so old and ugly. I don't care. I tell them, you know. But in a way, that's how those of you who love watching Sean, there's things he'd love to tell you that he can't tell you because that's his job.
yeah,
And I even have to watch what I say about certain things because he said people know we're connected. So doesn't mean if I thought you needed to know, I'd tell you.
yeah, yeah, lots of changes coming in Celtic Seer, that's for sure. People power is rising.
Well, this is kind of nice.
Mm,
This
yeah.
will be the spring and summer of the divine discontent. Lots of changes in celestial heavens and people power rising.
It does all have to change, and I feel like, it's very sad what's happened up in, the Carolinas, and particularly up by Asheville. They've got the brush fires right now, and they had
Hmm.
the rains and horrible storms from, I can't remember the name of the hurricane that came in. And people are still without housing and power and whatnot up there in the mountains. But I actually was looking at climate change and where would I go? And it was like Michigan or the Carolinas. I really looked at the Carolinas. I love Asheville. I've been there before. It's a very spiritual town. And then I started thinking, well, gosh, if I'm going to move just because of climate change, this is pretty good right now where I'm
Hmm.
at. And and again, that's that moving in fear, right? Because you want to be practical, but then again, um, is any place going to be safe? And I do feel like we're going to invent things like this is also going to be the golden age of science and mathematics
Hmm.
and AI, and they're going to invent things that are going to fix everything. Yeah, Rush, I would, or Libra Lady, I would stay in Michigan too. Michigan is one place I still have my eye on. Yeah, more fresh water there than anywhere in the world.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're surrounded by the biggest freshwater seas in the world.
yeah,
Um, but let's see. Well, now that we've got everyone frantically going out studying their, that's that's a that's a dishabituation, or that's a new habituation. The fun and thrill of going and getting your passport.
yeah. Well, and You think remote locations are safer south? Probably.
From
Yeah, and
what?
I'm in the city, you know, and I've got wards all around my property, and I've got little lions on my front and Buddhas and, Chinese soldiers, clay soldiers in my backyard and prayer flags, so
I'm gonna do my mountain of gold again. How to take river rocks, paint them gold,
I
hang them
remember
by your
that.
door. I'll maybe I can even do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
At my show at 1. It's a wonderful thing, and I've had people do it who tell me, man, it really changed the whole vibration right by the front door. You take a certain number of river stones and you paint them gold and you put them out. It's a feng shui, it's an energy changing sort of thing. But I don't think I can make the stones high enough to stay away from all the troubles.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
But
that one.
in a way, people are saying, "Oh, this is going to happen to the poor Americans." And no offense, Australian readers, you've had your own set of weirdos over there too. Um, but um, we, for a long time, if it really happens, we get totally cut off from the world food supply and everything else, and we do have the land to grow our own food on. But I think of all the times you'd hear about the horrible things the authoritarian government was doing to people in North Korea, and you'd go on with your day instead of sending blessings and trying to break the cycle there. And I'm guilty of this as anybody. So
Yeah, I was kinda thinking I had this in my back pocket, like, what if we have and I think we're gonna have the Earth is also gonna be doing some changes for us.
yeah, we've had
Um,
the 4 largest. For those of you who don't watch the weather report on the sun, we've had the 4 largest bursts of solar plasmic energy onto the Earth, and one that went out yesterday hit 3 of the planets simultaneously,
yeah, it's
and
just
they're big.
yeah, and the earthquakes and things like that. So there's all sorts of things going on the planet right now, that's gonna reconnect us because, we don't care if somebody's, drowning or if somebody's their car broke down or something, we're gonna reach out and help them. We don't care what color they are, we don't
Right.
care
When
how
we're
they
in touch
voted.
with, when we're close and we can do something, we feel like we can do something about it.
Yeah,
We're losing sight of our own power to expand our universal power.
yeah, and also, I feel like things are gonna happen that are gonna shift everything, and and I do see, eventually, if needed, that they will open up the parks for land if it's needed,
Hmm.
as we move on, that the national parks will be opened up for homesteading and things. So, we have a back pocket there.
Yes.
Beautiful back
Don't move
pocket.
on to Yellowstone though, because
No. I don't think
you may
Yellowstone's
you may get a very much warmer welcome than you expect.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
how are we going to wrap this up, girl? We're at the end.
I guess we can say thank you all for being here.
Good.
Yeah, and I do feel like we're gonna be okay, you guys. I feel good
I
about it.
do too.
I feel like, we don't need to worry as much as we do. That and I know that's easier said than done, and I go there, I go to that spot. But yeah, Mark says Nancy Rebecca says that the blue energy wave is ramped up and peaks on the 29th. The 29th is gonna be yeah, the 28th and the 29th are gonna be pretty special, Mark, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, weather's changing all over the planet, so moving out of
80 degrees
fear.
this time of year in Colorado.
Yeah,
Although I know some parts of Colorado can get very, very warm.
yeah. Alright.
Okay,
Well,
namaste. Someone gave us our exit. Namaste.
namaste, everybody.
Take care. Thank
I
you
like
for
nature
coming.
life.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.